What's going on, guys? CTG Matt back. You can read the title. I'm trying to predict the top 5 catchers at the end of the 2025 season. So, how I'm basing that is on 2024 production, plus surrounding factors. Things I can take into consideration are things like, did this player take a step in the right direction in 2024? Hell, did they take a step in the wrong direction, and I think that they're going to correct it in the offseason? There's some factors that come into this that, like, it's just throwing darts at a board. If you don't like the list, at the end of the day, remember, it is throwing darts at a board. Of course, I'm not trying to sit here and tell you guys that, I put, like, Freddie Fermin at number 1. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if I've taken some chances and some risks, again, it's just throwing darts at a board. I'm using things like, exit velocities, launch angles, stuff like that, to maybe predict future success. Now, let me clarify as well. Catcher's a deep position. It's not the best position, don't get me wrong. Like, there's not, 5 guys I'd be like, yeah, they could really be the best catcher in baseball. It's like a 3-horse race for best catcher in baseball right now, probably closer to 2. But I'd like to throw out some honorable mentions. Honorable mentions include Will Smith, Shea Langoliers, Sean Murphy, Tyler Stevenson, Salvi, Logan O'Hoppe, JT Realmuto, Pat Bailey, Ivan Herrera. I like all of them. And Ivan Herrera was like this close to being put on this list because I really believe in him. But Will Smith, another guy that I was kind of iffy on. His second half splits were really bad. You look at his Savant page, it's not the prettiest. And overall, he's 30. I'm not sure how he's going to age. Shea Langoliers was another one that I kind of struggled with. He strikes out a ton, but he hits bombs. So, you got to weigh the good with the bad. Overall, as a catcher, you got to remember that being a catcher is also part of this ranking. It's not just how many bombs can you hit, how good of a hitter you are. It also factors in things like framing, everything, pop time, So it takes into account more than just do they mash. Shea Langoliers mashes, it's just he strikes out a ton. It's not the best technical catcher. That brings me to Sean Murphy, who is a very good technical catcher, but bounces between being a really good and really bad hitter. 2023 was really good for Sean Murphy. 2024 was really injured for Sean Murphy. The troubling part for me as well is I believe in a bounce back year, but if you guys remember the back half of 2023, he wasn't good. His OPS dropped by like 200 points, So it was really hard to rank him in here when I see he's coming off an injury-riddled season, missed a lot of time, and on top of that, in the back half of his last full season, he wasn't that good. Then you got the other ones that were really hard as well. Salvi, of course, not the best pure catcher, but he mashes. That's his value. He hits close to 30 bombs a year, puts up over 100 RBIs. That's just his value. The thing is he's not the best technical catcher. Other things go into that, like he doesn't put up high WAR numbers either. Logan O'Hoppe was somebody I was very interested in. I think the Angels have something building with him and Shawnuel. The issue is, again, he's a guy where it's like, do I think he can make that good of a jump? I don't think he's ready for that big of a jump. I think he can be like a top 10 catcher, though. JT Realmuto has been in best catcher conversations for like a decade now. I think we're starting to see the fall off. Of course, he's still a really good catcher, but I don't think he's like of the upper echelon anymore. It's just age. He's old. Let's be honest, JT's been around for a while. He's been elite for a while. Players don't, catchers specifically don't typically age very well. Pat Bailey. Pat Bailey's a guy who's going to put up WAR, but he can't hit. He's a really good, behind the plate catcher. One of the best defensive catchers in baseball, but he can't hit. Maybe Buster Posey gets in his ear a little bit and helps him a little bit more, but yeah, if you can't hit and your value is really good fielding, I'm sorry, I'm going to take some other guys over you. Now we're actually getting the list started. At number 5, I have Adley Rutschman. I know. He had a really bad year last year. But if I told you 3.5 BWAR, 107 OPS plus, 20 home runs is a down season for a catcher, you'd probably take that. And that was Adley Rutschman's worst season as a professional. The one thing I dislike about Adley, I'll come right out the gates and say it, is kind of how his development is turning him into a 3 true outcome hitter. Biggest thing when he was coming up in the pipeline was that he could hit to all fields. He had power to all fields. He hit really well, but it wasn't like just a pull hitter. He hit a lot of doubles. Last season, his fly ball rate went up about 6%, which is a pretty big jump. And then on top of that, his pull percent went up about 2% as well. So I can kind of see that they're trying to turn him into like a home run hitter. The rest of the team was very home run reliant, and I really just don't like that much. I think Adley should be an all fields hitter. His oppo percentage went down. I kind of want him to be an all-around total hitter and not just a bomb guy. Adley's still squaring up the ball at a really high rate. He does really well as a catcher as well. It's just his framing is atrocious. His framing is pretty bad. Remember, he is 27. He's about 27 years old. And that is his worst season as a professional, his down season. And it was coming after, by the way, don't sleep. This guy got MVP votes in 2022 and 2023. I think that he can turn it around here, and I think that there's a higher chance that he ends up higher than 5, like 4, 3, 2, or 1, than he does out of the top 5 altogether. I'm really just high on Adley Rutschman. I think he's a pretty good talent, a really good talent, obviously. He was one of the best prospects in his class, and I just think that he could take another step. It's just last season was a down year for him. Every once in a while, guys have down years. In the offseason, you work, you look at the film, and you patch up what you did wrong. You come back next year stronger, and I think Adley's on that track. At number 4, this one might shock you. I have Gabriel Moreno. Gabriel Moreno? I don't know. He's 25 years old. He has really good plate discipline. A 353 on-base percentage and only 11 more strikeouts than walks last season. As a 25-year-old with that plate discipline, that is a really good sign. He played 97 games and put up 2.6 B-WAR. Now, I know B-WAR is kind of flawed, blah, 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 but let's be honest here, 2.6 B-WAR in 97 games is really good production. That pans out to over a 3-WAR season, clearly, and I think he just has that potential. His biggest question mark to me is if we can get some of that power in that bat, get some of that electricity back in that bat. Now, in his career, Gabriel Moreno has 13 home runs. 13 is not a lot. However, if you look at the 2023 playoffs, he had 4 in a playoff run. 17 games, he had 4 home runs. So it's clear that he has some power. Behind the plate, he's a really good catcher. His blocking is about league average, but his caught stealing, framing, and pop time are all above the 70th percentile. That includes a pop time in the 90th percentile. So he pans out well as a really good defensive catcher. Of course, this is one of the ones where I'm kind of just throwing it at a board. I see a guy with decent underlying statistics who's a good catcher. In 2024, Gabriel Moreno's barrel rate, average exit velo, max exit velo, launch angle, and sweet spot percentage all went up. That indicates that he is like hitting the ball better. There is an advancement there. And although, 97 games isn't a ton, that's a really good sign for what he put up in 97 games. Again, almost a 3-WAR season in 97 games. I see big things in Gabby Moreno. On top of that, plays in a hitter-friendly park, good line of protection around him. I see bright things in Gabriel Moreno's future. Whether you see him or not, that's up to you. But I see a 353 on base percentage, and according to Billy Bean, that's pretty good. R.I.P. Billy Bean. But I really do see bright things in Gabriel Moreno's future. I think he is their catcher of the future. It shows already. Although, what is his name? Ariel Del Castillo or whatever? He's something like that. He was really good too, but I don't think he's on his way to steal Gabby Moreno's spot if Moreno keeps playing the way he has. At number 3, I told you guys I'm taking risks. This is for the end of 2025. Remember that. This is Yainer Diaz. 619 plate appearances with an OPS at 766, an expected batting average in the top 3% of MLB. I mean, what more can you really ask for? He's in the 75th percentile for blocking. Caught stealings in the 76th percentile. That's pretty good as a young catcher, his first full season, really. And he's still only 26 years old. With great bat-to-ball skills, his framing needs some work, but he definitely can be better. Maybe they'll call up Martin Maldonado to help train him a little bit more. I don't know. He's in the 86th percentile for hard hit percentage. His expected slugging is in 80th percentile as well. He chases but doesn't strike out a ton. I think that bodes well. He just doesn't strike out a ton. If I were to nitpick, I would look at his home road splits and say, ooh, he might be a bit of a Minute Maid Park and a Crawford box merchant. And he might be. But here's the positive thing. He still gets to play 82 games or 80 games, whatever, at Minute Maid Park. Still gets to play there. But also, like I said, this was a young guy in his first full season. I think we will see bigger things out of Yainer Diaz to come. I really believe in him. And I get it, we're not batting average guys here. But I just like somebody who gets on base. And whether you're averaging to get on base and hitting singles or you're walking, it is the same thing as long as you get on base. And I see Yainer Diaz as a guy who can just flat up hit the ball. If you can't tell, I'm kind of taking a chance on some younger guys here, especially like Yainer. Like I said, Yainer Diaz, 26 years old. Gabby Moreno, 25 years old. Adley's like 27 or whatever. So I'm looking at this younger generation of catchers and going, you know what? Maybe this year is their year. I think this year is their time. And Yainer Diaz is one of those guys that I'm willing to go down with the ship if it really gets to that point. I think this is a guy who really has a bright future. And on top of that, like, he gets to play with Jose Altuve, and, you know, although they just traded Kyle Tucker, they still do have a good core of players, Jordan Alvarez, you know, so they still got guys who can produce. And I think Yainer Diaz is a guy who probably pans out to be their catcher of the future, in my opinion. Number 2 and number 1, if you expected anything other than the actual number 2 and number 1, I don't know what to tell you. Number 2 is very clearly Cal Raleigh, a 750 OPS plus one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. What else do you want? He could easily be number 1. There is a clear case for him to be the best catcher in baseball. I just don't have him there. Raleigh is the leader of the Mariners, though, if you don't know. I'm calling him the leader of the Mariners. Some people might want it to be Julio, but Cal is the only guy who, like, consistently shows up year in and year out. Julio goes to these half-season stretches where he's abysmal and then picks it up. He can do that, and that's great. He's still a great player. But Cal Raleigh is Mr. Consistent. He shows up every day. And like I said, he's just an elite catcher behind the plate as well. Baseball traditionalists, specifically like older people, they might not like him. Strikes out 28% of the time, I believe. That's fine for me. I don't care. He's a catcher. I'd actually prefer him to strike out, if I'm being honest, rather than like ground out or fly out. Because on a ground out, guess what you have to do? You have to haul ass to first base. That's more wear and tear on a catcher. I'd almost rather have my catcher strike out so that he can just walk back to the dugout and go sit on the bench, rest up a little bit. Doesn't hit for average, doesn't really get on base a ton either, but like I said, this guy bruises baseballs. He has a clutch gene. I think that's one thing that kind of gets slept on with Cal Raleigh is that he's clutch, bro. Like, he has hit some big-time homers before. Cal does literally everything you'd want out of a catcher. He's one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. He steals some strikes to go with his blocking and stuff like that. He throws runners out. He does everything you want, and he hits homers. He hits tanks. On top of that, I know he might not have the most home runs that you'll ever see, and you might not even be impressed by his home run totals. Remember, he plays in Seattle. That is like one of the worst hitter parks in baseball. Their pitchers strive there for clear reasons. Batter's eye, terrible. Dimensions, terrible. Weather, usually pretty bad. It's Seattle. So to put up a 750 OPS and hit as many home runs and produce at the level that Cal Raleigh has in that stadium definitely shows me that this guy's a star. And again, he is 28 years old. Youth is on his side. He is entering his prime. I see no reason as to why Cal Raleigh would be outside of your top 3 catchers in baseball. Through and through, he's just one of the best catchers in baseball. Might be the best. You have an argument there. If you have him over the number 1 guy, I don't blame you. But the number 1 catcher in baseball to me, William Contreras. I just think that this guy is one of the best hitters in baseball to go along with at least league average catching. Like I said, he's not the best like pure catcher behind the plate. He's about league average in everything. Fielding run value is basically 0. I think it's -1. Oh no. So it's not elite, but it's fine. Where he makes his money though is probably being the best hitting catcher in baseball. He's only 27 years old. Remember this, the Brewers got him for free. Essentially, for free. Is it weird that this can be a 3-way win of a trade? I can talk about that in a second. You know what? I will go into that. It might be a 3-way win as a trade. Like, Shea Langoliers has shown some potential. I'm not saying he is definitely the A's guy or whatever, but he has shown some real potential. I like him. I also like Sean Murphy. I think he might have a bounce-back season. He was a guy who I pondered putting on this list as well, just with Langoliers. But I think the clear winner here is the Brewers. They got William freaking Contreras for nothing. He can hit for power. He can hit for average. He walked more than last year. He hit less ground balls than 2022. More line drives. He pulled the ball more. The guy did everything you want. The underlying stats on Baseball Savant show that this is sustainable production from him, and I don't think there will really be a dip next season, barring something crazy like injury happen. This list is barring injury, of course. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, share, sub. Let me know some guys that you think could sneak their way into the top 5 catchers next year, or at least guys who you think will have a sneaky, really good season. I'm gonna go catch the game. See you guys in the next one.